Are we ready? All right. Hi, everyone. We're going to do Christmas music, and specifically, we had students request that we do the Mariah Carey All I Want for Christmas. We should play it first.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Let me get it here. Hold this again.
Okay. $1994.
We'll decorate while it plays.
What a year. Okay.
Ready?
Look, you can see the lights. They look great.
I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. I don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree. I just want you for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true. All I want for Christmas is you. Yeah. I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. Don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree. I don't need to hang my stocking there upon the fireplace. Santa Claus will make me happy with a toy on Christmas Day. I just want you for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true. All I want for Christmas is you, baby. Oh, I won't ask for much this Christmas. I won't even wish for snow. I'm just gonna keep on waiting underneath the mistletoe. I will make a list and send it to the North Pole for Saint Nick. I won't even stay awake to hear those magic reindeer play. 'Cause I just want you here tonight, holding on to me so tight. What more can I do? Oh, baby, all I want for Christmas is you. Baby. Oh, all the lights are shining so brightly everywhere. And the sound of children's laughter fills the air. And everyone is singing. I hear those sleigh bells ringing. Santa, won't you bring me the one I really need? Won't you please bring my baby to me? Oh, I don't want a lot for Christmas. This is all I'm asking for. I just wanna see my baby standing right outside my door. Oh, I just want you for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true. Oh, baby, all I want for
It's the apple cider. That's the key. Okay. I think the next track is going. All right. So there is All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey from
And you.
1994.
Wow.
Yep.
Does his homework? Doesn't.
Things you should know. Things you should know about Mariah and that song. So that song's from 1994. It was her fourth ever studio album, which was a really remarkable career move to have your fourth ever album be a Christmas album.
Wait, why?
Because usually that's something that you save for like the end of your career. You know, after you're sort of like, you know, you're like in the twilight of your pop stardom.
There's no hope left for you.
There's no hope left, so it's like, well, do a Christmas album. You know, so it was a really bold choice for her to say, you know what, we're gonna do a Christmas album. It's my 4th ever studio album, and that song is the second track on that album. She co-wrote it.
Okay.
But I didn't know this about Mariah. I had to look this up. She has co-written.
She co-wrote that song?
She has co-written nearly all of her songs.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I said. So
All right.
yeah,
She also does her interviews in bathrobes.
sometimes
She's my soulmate.
she's so incredible.
It's like
so,
career goals.
right, and she's remarkable for this persona of like absolute divadom.
Yeah.
You know, have you seen that YouTube video of her when they ask her about Jennifer Lopez?
No.
So this interviewer is asking her about Beyonce, and she's like, "Oh, I love Beyonce. She's got an amazing voice. She's an incredible entertainer. I love her." And then the interviewer goes, "How do you feel about J-Lo?" And she looks at the interviewer and she goes, "I don't know her." It's just like, oh, it's so it's flawlessly executed, flawless. So
It's not gonna work.
oh my god, I was reading this interview of Mariah Carey's that she did recently, because she recently released this new album called Caution, something like her 17th studio album.
Yes.
Like she's unstoppable.
I like the first 2 songs the best.
Oh, GTFO, it's so good. Okay,
Yeah.
but the interviewer is asking her about Glitter. So Glitter is that awful movie that she did, which came out on September 11th, 2001. So it's like it was career low point for her. And but what's amazing is that her low points, that's all relative, because
Yeah.
the interviewer asks her, "Well, how do you deal with failures in your career?" And she's like, "Well, I hardly think having the #1 song of 2001 was a failure." And like she's right. Exactly. So and it's just like that same like, I don't know her sort of move of she's got this attitude where she just like stares you in the face and is like, "I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, leave it to me. I'm a professional."
Yep.
Which I think is so, I don't know, there's something amazing about it.
Yeah.
This persona that she's crafted. What I want to talk about today is like why it sounds like a Christmas song. So because this is an original song. This song is her most successful single
Okay.
by far. It's the 11th best-selling single ever in the history of music.
Really?
Yeah, right? So
I actually buy that. That makes sense. I think you just don't think of it that way because it's a Christmas song. You don't think of it as a single.
yeah. But I mean, it makes sense because of course it's going to be a big seller. Christmas comes around every year. Well, any other single will sort of run out of steam, right?
Yeah.
But Mariah's song gets to come back every year. The #1 selling single of all time is Bing Crosby's White Christmas.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ultimately, what I want to get to
Okay.
is how we can tell it's a Christmas song even if we were to take all the words out. You know, if we were to just
Oh.
listen to it, you could totally tell that this is a Christmas song.
Right.
And I want to talk about why that is. And then ultimately I want to sort of like use that to talk about how like music makes meaning. You know, because I think Igor Stravinsky, 20th century composer, he said that music means nothing. Basically, in that music has no words. And so
Yeah.
music doesn't mean the way language means. But I think if you can hear
So
music...
he doesn't mean like music means nothing. He means that it doesn't mean in the same way as the semiotic system of word-based language.
Yeah. But also, this is where we'll get.
Whiteman?
Do you remember when we talked about Selena Gomez?
Yes.
Okay, and Selena Gomez's song had 3 chords in it.
Okay.
It was the entire thing built out of 3 chords. Mariah Carey's has 13. Yeah, which is totally out of this world for a pop song.
Yeah.
And that's what gives it that old-fashioned classic quality, is that it's using a harmonic vocabulary that is...
What's a harmonic vocabulary?
It's using a set of chords
Okay.
that's closer to something like Bing Crosby's White Christmas
Okay.
than it is to Selena Gomez's Come Back to You.
Okay.
Go Back to You. And beyond that, those 13 chords, she's using a lot of sort of sound markers that cue us into the fact that it's a Christmas song.
Okay.
So we got the sleigh bells, right? And when you hear the sleigh bells, like, what do you think?
Santa?
Yeah, right. So you hear
Is that
sleigh
too
bells.
pedestrian to say?
No. That's why she uses it, right?
Right,
like
right.
she uses the
I mean,
sleigh
jingle
bells.
bells.
Yeah. She
Like,
uses the
do,
single
do,
the sleigh bells,
The single bells.
the single bells, the jingle
Slip
bells.
Much.
She uses the jingle bells because they remind us of Santa. They remind us of those one-horse open sleighs from that song Jingle Bells. And
Yeah.
So she uses what some people have called the most Christmassy chord of all time.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the minor subdominant with an added sixth.
Can you can you decode that? I know what a minor chord is.
Yeah, so
That's about it.
so the subdominant is the fourth scale degree,
Which means
which means do, re, mi, fa. So this is the chord built on fa.
Okay.
1, 3, and 5 built on the fa scale.
okay.
If you're in a major key, this song is in G major. If you're in a major key, then the fourth scale degree is also going to be in major. So it would be a C major chord. But in this one, she uses a C minor chord, which is a little bit dissonant and a little bit jazzy. It
Okay.
has a different sound to it. Yeah, I think we could say that there's tension to it. And tension that's not always negative in the way that
Yeah.
like spicy food isn't gross food, but it's got a kind of right like it's got a
Yeah, yeah.
different flavor that gives it a sort of like it can sometimes make it hear it in White Christmas. Bing Crosby does the same thing at Children Listen. At Listen is when we go from the major fourth to the minor fourth.
Okay.
And we get this weird sense of almost like melting. You know, it feels very warm and cozy, but a little
Yeah.
bit spicy, like mulled cider almost.
I like all these taste analogies.
Yeah. And then from that minor fourth, he then melts even further. He goes into the tonic. Mariah does the exact same thing. These are all technical terms that will get us, that are designed to serve us to get to those more.
And like if you're listening to the podcast version, I've had Patrick send me all of these terms in an email. So you can go to the YouTube version, and as he mentions these terms, they pop up. And then you'll see the definitions. So if you're like, I am not tracking with this, you can visually track with it. Yeah.
So the 4/1 is a plagal cadence.
Okay.
And it's also called the Amen cadence because in hymns, when those hymns end with Amen, it's that Amen that goes 4/1. So it has that very, it has a churchy sound to it. And so the reason this song sounds like a Christmas song is because it has a chord progression that reminds us of the most popular song of all time, Bing Crosby's White Christmas. It's the number one selling single. So it's got the same chord progression as that song. And beyond that, it's got a chord progression that has a kind of similarity to it in that it sounds like melting, sort of oozing into that coziness.
Okay, yeah.
Between the major 4 and then the minor 4. And then a further almost sort of like religious quality as we go from the minor 4 to the 1. So that sort of warm, cozy, a little bit spicy, but also a little bit churchy. That's Christmas, right? No, maybe I'm wrong, but like you're getting cozy on the couch. You're sipping your eggnog. You have your gingerbread house.
With your very not together presents.
They're getting there.
This is very much like my actual present wrapping. I give my presents in bags.
It's okay.
And this is why.
I really imagined like plastic bags.
I mean, you're not far off. I go to Daiso and get holiday themed bags and tissue, and that's how the presents happen. Because exactly what's happening with these fake presents is what happens when I try to.
I'm sure they look really good. But okay. So
you're melting and cozy, and it has like a vaguely cozy, churchy feel because it's the same types of chord progressions that you would experience in both the most famous Christmas song ever.
Yeah.
Along with like the usual church intonations, and granted, so like.
Why does this sound like a Christmas song? Because it uses these two things. It uses metaphors and it uses metonyms.
Right.
So it uses the metaphor this musical metaphor in that the chord change sounds like melting and getting cozy on the couch, sort of warming up.
That's the metaphor?
Yeah, that's the metaphor.
I see.
It has a
So it's
similarity
like the
to it.
sound enacts what we usually would think of as a language capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And you're making a case that the sonic qualities are a sort of like enacted metaphor
Totally.
for coziness and like, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
I buy that.
So, and then the other way that it works is through the metonym. And the metonym is a little bit crunchier.
Yeah, so break down what a metonym is because,
Yeah. So the metaphor is based on similarity. My hands are cold as ice because my hands have been outside. They're cold. Ice is cold. Hands, ice. Based on similarity.
Yeah.
The metonym is based on contiguity, based on sort of association, that we associate one thing with another.
Yeah.
So if we're going with hands, we would talk about like hired hands. Oh, so how many hands on deck? All hands on deck.
Suits.
Yep, suits.
Yeah.
So when you say all hands on deck, you're not expecting a bunch of like hands to come out on deck. You're expecting a bunch of people to do work with their hands.
Yeah.
So because these people are doing work with their hands, because the hands are associated with what these people are being called to do, you would say all hands on deck.
Okay.
So
Yep.
that's a particular...
That's a really good explanation for it.
Yeah. And so when we have those sleigh bells, we associate sleigh bells with Christmas because those sleigh bells point to, they're affiliated with Santa Claus. Santa
Okay.
Claus is affiliated with Christmas. And so all we need is this jingly sound, which has this really powerful association
Right.
with one horse open sleighs, with Santa Claus, and with Christmas. And so even, you'll notice we haven't talked about the words at all.
Mm-hmm.
All we've talked about is the music, is the
Yeah.
sounds,
Yep.
and the ways in which those sounds bring us to Christmas and tell us this is a Christmas song
Yeah.
because of the musical metaphor with the chord changes and the musical metonym with the sleigh bells. Those chord changes being the exact same as Bing Crosby's chord changes
Yeah.
is another kind of metonym because it's associated with this older song tradition
Yeah.
that she's explicitly engaging with in this song.
Right.
So,
And it's like a subtle argument that you're making, but I think it's really crucial for people entering like mixed media, right? Like text and sound, for instance, or like multimodal, like our classrooms analyses, which is that these different tools we typically associate with like text-based literatures can be enacted on these other like physical registers, such as listening practices.
exactly. And so that does get us to the good point of like, what does this have to do with poetry?
Right.
Right? And that's... Metaphor and metonymy shows up all the time in poetry, and it's what allows figurative language and the deployment of images to be impactful in the same way that the artful selection of chords can be impactful and remind us of our experiences at Christmas.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read a Christmas poem,
All right.
which is a little bit old-fashioned.
Uh-huh.
Your friend and mine, T.S. Eliot. Yeah. So this is...
So let us not forget.
Let us not forget. There's frosting on my T.S. Eliot.
That's appropriate.
I feel like...
He would approve.
I don't know
He'd
if
be
this,
like, yep,
I don't know if this makes me
deck
a
my
good modernist
halls,
that I'm like,
frost
here's
my books.
my handy dandy T.S. Eliot that I got, my hardback. Thoroughly
It is on
annotated.
hardback. Oh my god.
It is. No, this is a good one.
Yeah.
So Journey of the Magi is the name of the poem. This is from 1927. So
Okay.
Journey of the Magi. You grew up in church. Who are the Magi? What's going on there?
I mean,
Did you study this?
is it talking about the three wise men? Mm-hmm. That's really it? The whole poem?
Yeah. So this
Magi.
is about the three. I'm getting sprinkles literally everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm putting snow on the reindeer.
Chelsea's not going to let me decorate anymore because I got it all over her rug.
I
So,
have a vacuum.
This is called Journey
It's a
of the
nice one,
Magi,
too.
and it's about exactly that. The three wise men, and their journey.
I don't know what to... I'm kind of stuck.
I'm just gonna gonna read this poem unless you want to read it.
I'm gonna rinse my hands and come back.
Okay. She's gonna rinse. I'm gonna read the Journey of the Magi.
Okay, perfect.
This is T.S. Eliot from 1927. A cold coming we had of it, just the worst time of the year for a journey, and such a long journey. The ways deep and the weather sharp, the very dead of winter. And the camels galled, sore-footed, refractory, lying down in the melted snow. There were times we regretted the summer palaces on slopes, the terraces, and the silken girls bringing sherbet. Then the camel men cursing and grumbling and running away and wanting their liquor and women, and the night fires going out, and the lack of shelters, and the cities hostile, and the towns unfriendly, and the villages dirty and charging high prices. A hard time we had of it. At the end, we preferred to travel all night, sleeping in snatches, with the voices singing in our ears, saying that this was all folly. Then at dawn, we came down to a temperate valley, wet, below the snow line, smelling of vegetation, with a running stream and a watermill beating the darkness, and 3 trees on the low sky, and an old white horse galloped away in the meadow. Then we came to a tavern with vine leaves over the lintel, 6 hands at an open door dicing for pieces of silver, and feet kicking the empty wineskins. But there was no information, and so we continued, and arrived at evening, not a moment too soon, finding the place. It was, you may say, satisfactory. All this was a long time ago, I remember, and I would do it again, but set down, this. Were we led all that way for birth or death? There was a birth, certainly. We had evidence and no doubt. I had seen birth and death, but had thought they were different. This birth was hard and bitter agony for us, like death, our death. We returned to our places, these kingdoms, but no longer at ease here in the old dispensation, with an alien people clutching their gods. I should be glad of another death. The book, or the poem rather, ends on this kind of sour note. By the time they finally make it to the Nativity and they see Christ born, they call it satisfactory.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's this totally deflated, like, oh, okay, I guess here it is. And then they return to their kingdoms after seeing this, and there's this real sense of disappointment, this sense of loss, because these old ways have been totally flipped on their head. So now there's this new religion, this new hierarchy, this new order, and the old order that provided these men with such privilege and comfort is now alien to them, and now they're totally out of place in their own homes. And it ends with, I should be glad of another death. And like, okay, that's a weird thing to end with, but it's an unapologetically Christian poem that's saying,
Ooh, I don't know if it is.
okay,
I mean, like, I think that, like, you could say it could be read from a Christian intonation, right? So you could read it as, like, because the 3 wise men weren't necessarily, they weren't Christian, right? Because Christianity didn't exist yet, right? So they returned to their old kingdom, suddenly seeing everyone as clutching the wrong gods. So,
Yeah.
like, now there's going to be this shift to a new order in religion, but they don't seem very happy about it.
no.
This isn't, like, rejoicing in that. Like, it's not being, like, and finally, we can know the truth and, like, the et cetera, et cetera. It's like a quite literally a weird sort of suicidal impulse is what it ends on instead. Like, there's something obviously, like, deeply depressing.
Yeah.
Like, quite literally, this birth was hard and bitter agony for us, like death, our death, right? And so we returned to our places, but no longer at ease here, when previously they'd been at ease at home and it was the travel that wasn't
Yeah.
easeful. So I don't think it's unapologetically Christian at all.
Okay. I think, well, so they have this sense of deflation and defeat, because the
Yeah.
wisdom that made these wise men exactly that is now sort of thrown out the window, and that sort of, I don't know, pre-Christian wisdom no longer counts. Like, these
Yeah.
people in this poem have, like, met the Son of God, and so suddenly, like, their positions as wise men really don't count for much anymore.
Yeah.
What does count is the life and inevitable death of Christ, who sort of like looms through the poem but is never actually mentioned.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
his death is never really explicitly referred to as like the crucifixion. But
Well, it refers to the crucifixion more than the birth.
it totally does.
Like, so the 3 trees are
Here
like
we
the
are.
3 crosses.
Here we are. Let's talk
Yeah.
about it. Let's talk about it. Oh wait. Is this? Oh, are we dealing with metaphors? Are we dealing with metonyms? Let's go there. Okay. Talk to me
6
about the trees.
hands. Well, the 3 trees, like the 3 crosses on the hill when Jesus was crucified, and
Yeah.
with the other 2, right? The pieces of silver, like you actually have in your notes here, like Judas, was willing to betray him, right? The 6 hands in the white horse. You put second coming for the white horse, right?
Why are you going to judge my notes?
No, I agree. I agree with that. I was just surprised. One of us replayed your Zealand,
Yeah,
one
yeah.
of us wasn't. Just saying.
But okay.
You know?
But let's
And, like, yeah, go ahead.
okay.
Sorry.
Let's pause and let's talk about these images, because I
Right.
think this is where I want to say, like, okay, now we can deploy the vocabulary that we just learned through Mariah Carey. So when we have the 3 trees on the hill, the 3 trees are like the 3 crosses.
Right.
So we're dealing with a relationship of metaphor.
Yeah.
3 trees are like 3 crosses. The 3 crosses refer to, metonymically, Christ's crucifixion. And
Yeah.
so by seeing these 3 trees...
Especially because the crosses are made of tree wood.
Yeah. Yep. So the 3 trees become an image for Christ's death. It's never explicitly said, in the same way that we can hear Mariah Carey's song without her saying a word about Christmas and know that it's about Christmas. This is a poem that is about Christmas, but it's actually about Easter.
Yeah.
Yep. And so then we
Well,
have...
Easter's the resurrection, though. This is
Okay.
definitely like...
It's about Good Friday. Okay, we can pick it apart. But like it's both about Christmas and about what Christmas prefigures.
Yeah.
You know, because the birth of Christ like points to the death of Christ. And so then we have the silver. So what's going on there?
Oh, Judas. So Judas is one of his disciples,
Mm-hmm.
and he betrayed him and turned him into Pontius Pilate,
Yep.
the guy that gets him killed, essentially.
Yeah.
In exchange for some money.
Yeah. So
Silver.
when the speaker of the poem encounters the silver has this association with Judas and with the betrayal.
Right.
So the silver is a metonym for Judas's betrayal.
And arguably, in this poem, another generous reading is that it's a critique of consumer culture at Christmas time. So it's like, ironically, the trees, the silver, like everything else that we use to symbolize things at Christmas in like contemporary Christian secular culture is actually like a representation of the commodification of Christianity. In the same way that like Jesus was commodified, quite literally, his death was inaugurated by the commodification of his life by Judas.
Oh.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah, so he's in England at the time. We're between the wars, so
But there was still like this sort of tension
yeah.
between like a sort of Christian Christmas, which is actually like not about Santa Claus and presents,
Yeah.
and like the sort of secularization of Christmas becoming like an engine for buying.
Yeah.
And it was still a thing then.
I think
Or
you're
that was
right.
back when it was noticeably a thing, whereas now we just assume it.
Yeah. I
You know
think
what I
you're right.
mean?
And I think the wise men in this poem are coming from the space of like, you know, sherbet and palaces and terraces. Like they're coming from this place that is marked by material wealth, and they're coming to this realization that material wealth really means nothing compared to this child that's been born in a manger and is going to die on a cross.
Yeah.
And we get that whole story just because of the images that these magi note. And they note things like trees and pieces of silver. And through these images, through the metaphorical and metonymic relationships.
And it's precisely because he uses metaphor that we could have just had two slightly competing interpretations, which is what makes the poem rich.
Yeah.
Right? Like if it was easy, like if he just said, you know, like this shift in Christianity being celebrated with the giving of gifts is like representative of Judas selling Christ to die.
Yeah.
Right? Like that would be kind of like, okay, cool, an essay. But when it's poetry, you're like, well, here's how I'm reading it, and here are different things I get out of it because this is representing this. And
Yeah.
you're like, well, if it's representing this, it might actually mean this. So,
Yeah.
like, the use of, like, metonym and metaphor, the reason we bother to learn it is because, ironically, it, like, opens up to more interesting interpretive meanings.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if we can hear Mariah's chord changes as a metaphor for something,
Yeah.
I might hear it as getting cozy on the couch. You might hear it as mulled wine. Yeah, I think.
And some people might hear it as, like, oh, the holiday season where my whole family explodes.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
the
Like,
metaphor,
we love Christmas, but, like, some people might hear that and be like,
So the metaphor does leave room for a range of experiences and for a kind of ambiguity in terms of what that experience is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is oppositional to the dominant ways that we think about knowledge, right? Like knowledge is oftentimes represented as this like monolithic truth, right? We were just talking in my genomics salon actually about like the popularization of like faux science, like Enlightenment now. But like there's oftentimes this assumption that both poetry and sciences and other like seekers of knowledge are looking for one universal truth that sort of usurps them all, and then you're situated as like the knower of the thing. But I think where poetry can be like kind of anti-fascist, if that makes sense, or like rebellious, is that it refuses, when it's really well done, to lay out itself as a singular meaning.
Yeah.
Like it forces complicated thinking.
Yeah.
It forces complexity. You know, and it makes it so that you have to account for your experience in relation to it, or if you're not, you're just being kind of like a lazy reader.
yeah.
know?
Ooh, nice. Well done.
Thank you.
That's really good.
I've been feeling really angry about fascism lately.
Well, and I love that reading because that vocabulary makes for great Christmas music, and it makes for compelling experiences of a poem that is otherwise
Yeah.
kind of dead on arrival.
Yeah, and it like forces you to realize that something never necessarily means anything. Right? There's never a necessary like foreclosed meaning you can associate with any one thing. Like anytime you're reading and interpreting language, or even the sounds that you hear, right? You're sort of engaging with it in a reciprocal way.
Yeah.
And by that I mean like it's not like bells necessarily definitively mean Christmas. There's no like objective magical thing out there that tells your brain that. Right? There's these different sets of conditions in which you start to associate the bells with Christmas. And then what you associate with Christmas is going to necessarily be situated on your position historically, like where you are in history and where you are socially.
Yeah.
Right? Because like my one fear of us doing a Christmas episode is I was like, well, there's a pretty long history of like Christmas being taken up as a way to erase like the non-dominant cultures. But the hopeful piece of that is things like this demonstrate how you can take something that seems to symbolize one thing and you can explore ways that it also symbolizes other things. And it's important to do that because if you don't, you're re-erasing the very thing you think you're reinvigorating. So if, like, for instance, if you're like, Christmas trees necessarily denote the three crosses on the hill, you're ignoring that the Christmas tree was also borrowed from and used from different religious and experiential traditions. And it's come to mean different things in different cultures. So you're re-erasing the thing you say you're standing up for when you first were outraged by it being the crosses on the hill. Right? But I think that we live in a culture that wants to simplify it so that it's easy to digest.
Yeah.
And poetry, what I love about it and what it can do when people are open to it, even in poems like this, for instance, is refuse that oversimplification and force you to critically engage in a more situated way.
Right, because we have this impulse to say, trees on the hill equal crucifixion.
Right.
I feel like that's this sort of English class answer.
And that's not actually a metaphor then.
Yeah.
That's like a mathematical equation instead. You know?
And meaning is exciting because meaning is slippery and meaning is a complex. And so when we see trees on a hill, we aren't seeing the crucifixion, we're seeing a metaphorical and metonymic complex that Eliot, for as conservative of a poet as he might be, is executing really artfully and really sort of creating this nodal point that shoots out into all these other directions and that you can follow and that you can experience.
And like, so to put another plug in for the rebels. No, but this is like a really crucial point, I think, in the present moment, because if you really want to subvert like the dominant meaning making mechanisms, you have to insist on more complex ways that there's meanings that would otherwise be erased. You know what I mean? So for instance, reading this as like an anti-commodification, anti-capitalist return to like a pre-consumer culture Christianity, like that's pushing past what maybe T.S. Eliot would have intended, but that might be the most rebellious way you can read his poems. You refuse to give them that power of determining one culture as the monoculture and saying, actually, there's these other like meaning-making things happening that we have to attend to.
Okay. So what I would be really interested to know is if you could connect that back to this sort of like vaguely sacrilegious Christmas celebration that we're having right now. Because I think
sacrilegious in what way? The broken presents,
well, I
the
think
frosting on the rug.
Like here we are, like we have the Christmas tree and the Whole Foods snowballs brought to you by
the
Whole
Trader
Foods.
Joe's.
Yeah.
I wish.
the gingerbread house, like we're here like celebrating Christmas on screen. But in like a totally non-religious kind of way. And I feel like there's something rebellious in what we're doing. To celebrate
That's so
Christmas
gonna edit it out, but-
in like a non-religious capacity, like to decorate a gingerbread house and like call it a Christmas episode.
Yeah.
Like that's very lowercase c Christmas that we're doing here. But yeah, we're also like going to Trader Joe's and like buying all our goodies and like totally participating in this sort of like commodification of Christmas. And so like
And it's important to acknowledge, so like power relations again, like the reason that there is like in a lot of like left circles a critique of Christmas is because the holidays commodification has also coincided with it being used to erase other cultures. Like it's been mobilized in anti-Semitic discourse, right? As well as anti-Black discourse and like all sorts of ways it's been sutured to patriotism that can be really problematic. So like to not ignore that, but to also say like what about this though is still like rebellious and pleasurable. Like how is it to get out of the oversimplistic binarism of like good, bad, black, white, you know, etc. Like there's a very complicated history with Christmas. And there's a very complicated ways we can read into the holiday. And I think maybe the most like healing thing we can do is create relations that refuse the violences and refuse erasures, but also celebrate like relations and connections where they can be found. You know?
Yeah.
That's my woo Christmas.
No, that was perfect. That was such a good way to finish this.
All right. And
So-
on that note, 15 minutes later.
All right.
All right. So just to be like really, really clear, because I know some of the folks that listen and watch, like the ways that I think we can celebrate, and it's always in modification. Like it's going to be different for each individual, but you have to historically situate yourself, which we did.
Yeah.
Pretty fairly.
Totally.
Right. Given the amount of time we have and the medium. And you also have to think about, okay, if I understand that history, how can I now do it in a way that doesn't repeat that history, but that also still builds relations instead of negations? You know? And I think that to be like super touchy-feely as I've been lately, but that's
'Tis
like...
the season. No, I feel like we've done some really good work today. Like
Yeah.
we started with Mariah, and then we talked about
T.S.
metaphors
Eliot.
and metonyms, and we used
Yeah.
that to get to T.S. Eliot, and then we used that to talk about like an anti-violent approach to celebrating Christmas.
Yeah.
Like that's
Which means like historically
And we did
situating
it while
yourself.
building a-
That's impressive because I'm not crafty, in case you didn't notice. All right, I'm done. Glasses coming off, so I can de-nerd a little bit.
All right.
Everyone, thank you for tuning in today. Shout out to our students who requested a Christmas episode. I hoped it was everything you asked for and more. I'm sure it was more, but hopefully it was also what you asked for. Have a good time this month celebrating whatever traditions help you escape trauma and pain. You know, and help you feel like whole and like you're repairing relations in your life, whether that's Christmas or something else.
Yeah.
And Patrick, thanks for joining me.
Anytime.
and for decorating with me. We're going to do more of that in a minute. And everyone else, you can now type in thepoetryblog.com and it'll redirect you to the main website where you can go to the podcast. Remember, this is available as a podcast. And please like, subscribe, and leave comments. Shout out to Jenna Russell out in Michigan. She's been leaving some comments, reminded me actually, I have to do an episode I said I would do. I love the comments. All right. Thank you again, Patrick.
Anytime. Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye. I don't know,
Anyway,
maybe I should check Rate My Professors. I bet I've been trolled there a few times.
I'm hot, according to Rate My Professor.
Ooh, I got a chili pepper too. I know, it's like my proudest moment.
I don't know if it's my proudest moment. 'Cause I was like, oh, that's right. I'm a female teacher. That's all my students see.
Okay, so
But at the same time, I'm like, well.
yeah. I don't know. As
You
someone
know?
who like dresses so conservative and is like a little buttoned up and
I mean, I'm like Michigan nerd right now.
like.
This was bad. This was like next level.
Yeah, but you wore that for the Christmas special, and I wore this because I wear this every day. The students can attest to this. This is
That used to be my uniform. It's the gay uniform.
it's a good
Yeah, it is. All right, this really derailed. Please
Join
comment,
us next week
like.
for gay uniforms. I'll be in a tank top.
Oh, Doc Martens, black skinny pants, and a glittery like crop top.
I'm like really freaking out at the inevitability of this episode.
Yeah,
No, what have I gotten myself into?
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of tanks. Don't worry.
there's gonna be a lot of outtakes from this one.
Switch to the tank top episode.
I am making a file, by the way, of all of our outtakes. It might have gotten deleted when my hard drive crashed, but we'll find out. I can't even find it. With my glasses back on.
It's gonna be really funny when we haven't been recording.
That scared me.